got your third snooze button going. You think that people who stack cash hit their snooze button 3 times? None of this, no, but I can't. Oh, it's because you've been allowed to your whole life. If I was standing above you and had a gun to your head when the alarm goes off and I said you hit that snooze button and you die, and you believed it, I wonder how many of you like, oh, can't, too weak. No, you get out of bed. Maybe part of the problem is that we haven't found the thing that wakes us up in the morning, that gets us going. People who love what they do, they wear themselves out doing it. They don't just dabble in it, they wear themselves out doing it. So maybe that's the thing, that we haven't found something outside of bed that's worth going to. And this is why we stare at our phones so much, because what's on the phone is so much more interesting than what's happening in real life out in the real world. Because that means that we haven't invested ourselves in real life to the point where we can find things that are more interesting than what's happening there. And if you could find something out in the world that's worth getting out of bed for, then that gives you something to overcome. And once you realize you can overcome that, now start thinking about what else you can overcome.
Because if we accidentally touch or get burned by hot water, it can get uncomfortable. And I think that's what we have to do in life, where we have to experience uncomfortable or sorry. Basically we have to get to know uncomfortable in our life, and it will keep us clean. Because I said that when we feel clean, we kind of get to know more of ourselves or enjoy ourselves, because it could motivate us sometimes. So, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, hot water. It's like we like hot water until it's really hot water. We like warm water. We like water that's. But I mean, people say like, "Oh, I love a hot shower. Take a boiling shower. Then if I poured boiling water on you, would you dig that?" Well, of course not. Of course not. By the way, if I poured boiling water on your skin would be clean. Everything that's there would have been killed off. But there's definitely something there about learning about the consequences of things. And the consequences, by the way, can be good and bad. So, for example, you mentioned earlier this idea of being controversial. You get into trouble once in a while. You say something controversial once in a while. He's saying it's a good idea to do that because it keeps you clean. It keeps you humble. It keeps you humble. Oftentimes we think that we can get away with anything. And I hear this kind of stuff all the time. Like, I have students who will say things like, oh yeah, my parents have no idea what I'm up to. It's like, really? You don't think they do? Or do you think that they just kind of are more hands-off? That's the real sad part. It isn't so much, I don't know if it'd be sadder that you're getting away with it, or if it's sadder that your parents care so little that they don't get involved. They're both equally miserable outcomes, of course. And I don't know what the situation is for a lot of people. But also parents, for many of them, it wasn't that long ago that they were sitting where you're sitting. Actually, quite literally, in some cases, here in National City. And so I wonder how often we really do get away with those things versus they're kind of allowed to slide because they were doing the exact same thing. It's like, any of you guys have any girls have dads who are like, stay away from all guys, no dating until you're like 30 years old, stay away from guys. Ask your dad, Dad, what'd you do? Well, how do you know so much about this stuff? Like, I don't want to talk about it, but just trust me, okay? Yeah, getting into trouble is good for you once in a while because that's how you learn how to manage trouble. Going into, I don't know, tell me if you've heard this before. If anxiety or depression shows up, what should you do? Invite it in. Tell it to take a seat. Find out what it wants. Interview it. Same is true with trouble. You get into trouble sometimes. Bring it in. Find out how do I deal with this? Because if you go through life always following rules, at some point when you do get in trouble, you won't know how to handle it. You have to get into hot water once in a while because it keeps you humble, but also it teaches you how to handle trouble. Because trouble, by the way, is not just that you did something wrong. Trouble is also sometimes that you did everything right, but lots of people think you did something wrong, or rather, lots of people will say that you did something wrong. I don't know if any of you have ever, I don't know how many of you have encountered that. And I don't just mean like, the teacher said you were talking, but you weren't talking. I can't tell you how many times I hear that. stare at you for 10 minutes, you're talking for 9 minutes, finally say something. I wasn't talking like just now, in the last 5 seconds. It was something else. You'll get into trouble for things that you did, for things that you didn't do, but in any event, you gotta learn how to handle those things. You have to learn how to handle the difficult times, learn how to handle challenges. God, what was it? We were just talking about something, what was it? Yesterday, where we're talking about how much we kind of like hover over people. I think it was the FAFSA thing. I think it was. You guys know what the FAFSA is? FAFSA is the paperwork you fill out to get financial aid for college. I love you, but I'm going to tell you the truth. That's why I'm going to tell you the truth. If the FAFSA form kicks your ass, you're probably not ready for college. If reading a form that tells you, get this number and put it here and answer this question is too difficult for you, you're probably not ready for college work. There's a problem there. And so what we do is we bring people in who we think might go to college. We send those little call slips, and then we sit you down and we go, okay, here's the FAFSA, here's how you do it. And someone sits there with you, and they walk you through it. It's like, oh my God, that was so helpful, thank you. But here's the thing, you didn't learn how to fill out the form. You learned how to have somebody else help you fill out the form. What happens now when you go off into the world and you have to file taxes? And I see these memes all the time. Man, school didn't teach me anything about how to read a rental agreement or how to pay taxes or how to do this or how to do that. It's like, you're right, to an extent. You did learn how to read, I hope, and you did learn how to do basic math, I hope, add addition, subtraction. If you did that, then you can fill out tax forms. They're designed to be that way. But if we're struggling with it, I wonder if it's because we've had so much help all along the way that when suddenly there's no one to help us, we don't know how to do these things. And it's attractive to us when we have someone who can help us. It's like, oh, thank goodness that there's someone there to help me to make it easier for me. Easier is not better, because easier is not easier. Easier is faster right now, but it's so much more difficult later on down the road. Some of the greatest things that my dad ever did for me was to not help me with stuff. Like, the plumbing, if the sink in my bathroom is backing up, and I would tell him, Dad, the sink in the bathroom is backing up, he'd say, you should fix that. Otherwise it's going to get really gross in there. And I'm not talking like I was 18, I'm talking I was like 8, 7. And so I'd go in there to, he would give me his toolbox, and then I would go in there to try to fix it, and he would just sit in there and he'd watch me. It wasn't just, oh, go do it. He would sit there and he'd watch me. And once in a while, if something, I remember the first time I did it, I started to try to figure out where the water goes. I'm looking at it, and I go, oh, and there's this thing here that tightens it. If it was too strong, of course, he'd loosen it for me so I could do it. And I remember I undid the spiral that clamps the pipes together, and I opened it up, and guess what happened? No, I didn't hurt myself. Water went all over the place, huge mess. And my dad, did he know that was going to happen? Mm-hmm. Yeah. How did do I know that does happen? Yeah. How did I learn? I watched it happen right in front of me. And then there's a huge mess, and my dad said, I guess first things first, you should clean that up. I'm like, pissed out, I go over, I just have to clean it up. But I never did that again without having a bucket or something underneath it to catch it. And I learned how to do basic plumbing. The one time he did step in was when I was trying to change a light socket. I think I was like 12 or something like that. And I was unscrewing everything. He goes, first things first, go turn off the circuit breaker. So that way I didn't stick something in there and die. And so he did, something like that, if it was going to be life or death, yeah, he would step in with something like that, and he would tell me to not do it. And that's how I learned how to do most of the things in life. This is how I can change a tire. This is how I can do plumbing. This is how I can do electrical work. This is how I can do building stuff. This is how I can do a lot of things around the house. This is how I can fix appliances. Because you have to learn how to do it when it's uncomfortable. And why do you have to fix all those things? Because if you don't have money to buy new ones, you have to fix everything that you own. And then you learn how to do that. You become resourceful. And that's the key to it. You become resourceful. But also, you develop an ability to believe in yourself. Because you think, like, if I can fix this, I can fix this, I can fix this. You have to learn. You have to go through adversity to figure out what you're, not just how to do things, but also to figure out what you're capable of. And moreover, to develop a level of self-confidence in yourself. Like when we ask people, like, how do I develop self-confidence? Well, you have to have some wins. Some people I know have never won anything in their lives. And I mean, like, anything. They can't even, like, sorry, I was about to say they can't even show up to places on time. I guess that would implicate too many of you. They can't, how about this? How many of you guys, when the alarm goes off in the morning, you just hit the snooze button? And you're like, oh, I can't get up. Yeah, not with that attitude. Of course. I can't get up. Yes, you can. You're choosing not to. You're choosing to lay in bed where it's warm. And as I've said before, the purpose of the meaning of your life is not in that bed. So it ends up happening. But then you end up running late. Even if you're not late, you run late. And running late, by the way, has a chemical effect on your brain. It changes and shapes how you approach the world that day. This is why people who are early are always relaxed. People who are running late always scattered. And you ever notice how people who are late are generally loud also because they're carrying a bunch of shit in there? Because they're not planning ahead. They're like putting stuff down and like cups are swirling with ice. They're like putting stuff down there and they're distracting everybody and they have no concept that they're even distracting the people around them. Because everything is just me. But it isn't even the proper form of me, which is let me do the best thing for myself, which is to get out of bed when the alarm goes off, to be able to take my time in the morning, to get my head straight, to be able to get somewhere a little bit early, not an hour early, but a little bit early, so that not just on time. To do all of these things, which, by the way, every study that we have on productivity shows that these are all things that highly successful people do. But then we're like, but I'm gonna stack cash though. I don't know, man. You got your third snooze button going. Do you think that people who stack cash hit their snooze button 3 times? And this isn't me telling you anything that you don't already know. This is stuff that you would already know intuitively when we think about it. And so what do you have to do? Well, when that alarm goes off, first off, set your alarm a little bit earlier so that you're not running late. And then once the alarm goes off, you get up. None of this, no, but I can't. Oh, it's because you've been allowed to your whole life. This is all it is. If I was standing above you and had a gun to your head when the alarm goes off and I said, you hit that snooze button and you die, and you believed it, I wonder how many of you like, oh, can't, too weak. No, you'd get out of bed. In fact, you'd probably be out early. You'd be out early. And maybe part of the problem is that we haven't found the thing that wakes us up in the morning, that gets us going. People who love what they do, they wear themselves out doing it. They don't just dabble in it. They wear themselves out doing it. So maybe that's the thing, is that we haven't found something outside of bed that's worth going to. And this is why we stare at our phones so much, because what's on the phone is so much more interesting than what's happening in real life, out in the real world. And that's sad. And I don't mean that in the patronizing, like, that's sad, I feel so bad for you. No, it really is. Because that means that we haven't invested ourselves in real life to the point where we can find things that are more interesting than what's happening there. It's not that what's happening on the phone isn't interesting. Of course it is. By the way, it's designed that way. If any of you guys watched those hearings from Facebook, year before last, and Facebook had to admit in front of Congress that they hired psychologists specifically to get you guys addicted to using these things. And yet for some reason we hate cigarettes and we love Facebook. I mean, I don't know, man. I don't think that the cigarette companies hired psychologists specifically to get you addicted to those things. The social media companies have had to admit that they did. Nothing, of course, happened from it because they paid billions of dollars. So, but again, it's a thing that if you could find something out in the world that's worth getting out of bed for, then that gives you something to overcome. And once you realize you can overcome that, now start thinking about what else you can overcome. And that's what it is, that we don't test ourselves enough because we're so comfortable to not have to. And again, it's difficult. This isn't. Please don't take this as a criticism. It's difficult. One of the things that you can do, actually, by the way, that you'll find, take a cold shower. Try it. It does a lot for you in the morning, man. It does a lot for you. It doesn't just shock your body into waking up. It also wakes your brain up. Neurochemically, we know that this is the best thing for you in the morning. Not like an ice bath, but also not a steaming hot shower. Why the steaming hot shower? Because it's comfortable. It reminds us of being in bed where it's warm. The coldness is uncomfortable. But so are the challenges you have to overcome in life. They're uncomfortable. And that's why we have to face them, because what's the alternative? To not face them? The problem is you've all got that person next to you who's willing to face the challenges that you're not. And guess what they're going to do? Overcome. It's a weird thing that there are these challenges in life that some people just rise up over, and then others just put down. And the worst tragedy of it is that we know better. That's the worst thing. You ever just fuck something up and you're like, oh my God, I knew better. It'd be a sad thing to get 30 years down the road and look at a track record of I knew betters, to see what you maybe could have become. Questions, comments, concerns, complaints, criticisms, critiques? Happy Thursday. I didn't expect for it to go dark, but I mean, I guess I should expect it, right? This is first spirit after all.
Yep. Everything leads to murder.
Yeah, we didn't get to murder. Did we get to murder?
No, we have not.
What's the motivation in the mornings to commit murder?
Oh yeah, explain.
That's the, you know, it really, it's a workout.
Uh-huh.
It gets you tired, and it makes you be resourceful with the body you have.
Interesting. So murder is good. So
Yes,
murder is good exercise.
In the way
It helps us become resourceful, helps us to face our fears,
Yeah,
and to challenge death, and also to challenge authority.
and it helps you make a good surgeon.
Oh yeah, it could make it could lead to a rewarding career in surgery.
Yeah.
Huh. All right. So write this down. Homework for the weekend.